Oh my god, my mic's been off. Has my mic been off? God damn it. I think my mic was off this whole time. Dude, I have to change the settings. Oh well. Well, at least I can finish this, at least I can finish this chapter. I'm not going to reread this, but I will, what will I do? I'll just skip past it. I'll delete this video and finish reading. I read all this aloud and nobody could hear me. Oh, man. Depressing. Okay. Well, I'm reading about marriage in Burma. Before I read tattooing and ear boring, which is like gauges and men getting themselves tattooed from right below the belly button to the kneecaps, um, which is a tender place to get tattooed. And they talked about all the different tattoos. And so I'll proceed this chapter. It says, the preliminary courting is naturally conducted in the old fashion, best known to those who have had experience of their own in such matters. These parties meet at Puez, the girl perhaps selling chair roots, fried garlic, lepe, and what not, and therefore being readily accessible to any swain. It must not be supposed that keeping a stall is regarded as anything derogatory. Numbers of perfectly well-to-do women set them up regularly. Some even have daily work in the bazaars, and very often a girl commences occupations of the kind with the view of attracting the younger men and securing a husband. Then there are meetings at pagoda feasts, in the zayats, and at friends' houses, so that there are plenty of chances of introduction to eligible swains, even without calling in the assistance of the ong thue. This function makes it a regular occupation to know all the attractions, physical and sordid, of all the young women in the place, and for all small consideration, or sometimes merely for love, of his trade, bringing young couples together and um, arranges places of meeting for them. He is, of course, most useful where an impecunious youth aspires. Now I need to Google the definition. Uh, Missed the button. Okay. Impecunious means having little money. So where an impecunious youth aspires to the hands of a rich merchant or a high official's daughter, he manages an introduction in a roundabout way to avoid rousing suspicions, praises his client's appearance and abilities, contrives a series of unexpected meetings, and does everything in fact to further the project. There are regular practitioners in the business and others who dabble in it for want of something to do and from sheer love of scheming. Courting, whether authorized by the parents or not, is very seldom carried on in daylight. So much is this the case that the phrase "lu bio hle thi arcane," or courting time, is commonly used in ordinary conversation to designate 9 o'clock at night, or a little before or after. The time may be due to the fact that occupation of or the heat prevent it during the day, but there is an old saw which may account for it to the effect that in the morning women are cross and peevish, in the middle of the day they are testy and quarrelsome, but at night they are sweet and amiable. Authorized courtship, if the term is not too unromantic, is always carried on at this time, and preparations for it are duly made by the girls. A couple of hours after nightfall, the lover, with a friend or two, makes his appearance near the house and dawdles up and down till he finds the old people have gone to bed or retired from the scene. Then he goes up the steps and along with his supporters, and finds the girl alone, or with a companion or two, dressed in her best, with flowers in her hair, powder on her cheeks and neck, generally prepared for conquest. The old people are never present, though they can hear everything, and the mother, as I am credibly informed, Hak-yi Thi has a convenient chink in the bamboo walls through which she can survey operations and prevent too ardent lovemaking. Interviews vary in length, and the nature of the conversations may be best left to the imagination. If only the accompanying youth has also an appointment that evening, he naturally endeavors to curtail his friend's philandering as much as possible in order that he himself have more time in another place to press his suit. Even in clandestine flirtations, the courting is always effected in a formal way like this. Meeting in the lover's loan or a quatre would ruin a girl's character immediately. Her own mother would be the first to put the worst construction on such doing. Little present, little presents are exchanged. The soparent brings a gay kerchief with some love verses written on it. Damn it. Perhaps his own composition, more probable the erotic sighings of the prince in the last play he heard, or cribbed bodily from a songbook for Calathas. The girl gives him some green cheroot rolled by her fair hands, or a brilliant woolen muffler which she has knitted. But there is never any of the kissing and caressing indulged in by more urgent foreign lovers. The girl would look upon any attempts of such nature as highly indecorous, and no doubt it is quite suited to her clothing. When at last everything has been settled, parents' consent obtained, dowry fixed, and a fortunate day and hour pitched upon, the marriage ceremony comes off in the house of the bride's parents. The ritual is very simple, has nothing whatever of a religious character about it. In fact, the celibate Pangyis would be grossly scandalized if they were asked to take any part in it. A great feast is prepared at the expense of the bridegroom or his parents in the public publicity, uh, and it is the publicity of the thing that is really the main feature of the ceremony. The old custom that the bride and bridegroom should join their hands together, palm to palm, in the presence of all the assembled guests, and then should eat rice out of the same dish and feed each other with one or two morsels in turtle dove fashion, has in many cases died out. In the eating and drinking, the talk of the men in the main room of the house and of the woman in the inner apartment is quite enough to solemnize the union. When the newly married couple retire into the bridal chamber, it is sometimes in the larger town the custom to shower saffron colored rice on them. But the entire seclusion like the entire seclusion in which the happy pair are supposed to pass the next 7 days, is very seldom actually carried out. In the country villages, however, two ancient customs are still very generally prevalent. The one is to tie a string across the road along which the bridegroom must pass to the house of his intended. He comes in procession with all his friends, carrying the greater portion of the belongings with which he intends to set up a house, a bundle of mats, a long armchair, a teak box, mattresses, pillows, besides material for the feast and presents for the bride. The people who have put up the string, called the gold or silver cord, usually young men intent on a jollification of their town, stop the happy man and threaten to break the string with a curse on the married couple unless some money is given them. It is simple extortion, and English district officers sometimes forbid it. Nevertheless, speculation is usually successful. I suppose no one feels very niggardly on his marriage day. The other custom is much more singular, more ancient, and infinitely more disagreeable. On the night of the marriage, a band of the young bachelor of the place come and shower stones and sticks on the roof of the house where the happy couple are keeping up sometimes such a sustained battery that the thatch of wooden shingles suffer materially, while the furniture and even the newly wedded couple occasionally do not escape injury. In Lower Burma, the lads are usually brought off with a sum of money, and where the officials do not interfere to prevent it, the custom has degenerated into a system of extortion. Not a few lawsuits have sprung out of such sieges. The money paid and told to the housefly goes by the name of kebo, and is supposed to be devoted by the receivers to making offerings at the pagoda, but the young men nowadays use it to shamelessly for their own entertainment. In Upper Burma, the blackmail is never demanded, and consequently, father's son Germano was puzzled to conceive any reason for the extraordinary practice. Captain Forbes, seeing the payment as payment to procure relief, believed that the believed that extortion was the sole origin as well as object of the performance, but learned in Burmese folklore assign it. But the learned in Burmese folklore assign it a much higher and more esteemable beginning. When after the world was formed, it was first peopled from the superior heavens by Yamas of the nine that remained behind, weighed down by the gross earthly food they had eaten. Five gradually became men, and four women. When Bai Ma Gyai Ko Yak, these when these that word, these nine great ancestors of the Burmese and of all mankind had gradually degenerated through the substitution of Pada Lata. Okay. For the original flavored earth and of thale rice, for the leguminous creeper desire arose among them, and for of the men took the four women to wife. The fifth man naturally resented being the left um, compulsory single and pelted the happy couples with the stones on their marriage night. Sympathy with their feelings of this archetypal bachelor has perpetuated the stone throwing by the Lubios down to the present day, and if there is no dearth of eligible spinsters in our time, the lonely bachelor may be allowed to express his envy of his friend's bliss without being accused of anything but gross cupidity. After marriage, the couple almost always lives for 2 or 3 years in the house of the bride's parents, the son-in-law becoming one of the family and contributing to its support. Setting up a separate establishment, even in Rangoon, where the young husband is a clerk in an English office, is looked upon with disfavor as a piece of pride and ostentation. The girl is an only daughter. She and her parents stay on till the old people die. Polygamy is recognized and permitted, but practically does not exist now in British territory. A man with more than one wife becomes a subject of common talk, and a native official now living is well known and all through the Delta as the Mio Oak with 20 wives. In native territory, the right to have several wives was equally used and practiced. Many of the high officials who traveled about over large districts had wives in almost all the towns. They visited a custom in great measure induced by the rule which provided that the Maya Gye, the chief wife, had to be left in Mandalay as a hostage for the fidelity of the official. But the great bulk of these people are and always have been monogamous. King Mindon had 53 recognized wives, of whom 37 survived. His children numbered 110, of whom upwards of 50 survived. Besides the wives, like Solomon, he had numerous concubines, so indeed have many lesser people. So indeed, the forbidden degree are few. Marriage is with mother, daughter, sister, and half sister, aunt, grandmother, and granddaughter are forbidden, but none else. A son may marry his stepmother. It is expressly mentioned in the Demathat. The sovereign always married at least one half sister to ensure the purity of the royal blood, but rather illogically, the issue of this union was not by any means necessarily heir to the throne. The son whom the king of his ministers after his death named succeeded, or more commonly still, the son who could best maintain his position by force. The liberty of divorce is practically unrestricted except by the elaborate laws restricting the division of property. According to the laws of Menu, a woman may obtain a divorce among other reasons for the following: when her husband is poor and unable to support her, when he is always ailing, he is not work and leads an idle life, when he is incapacitated by reason of old age, when he becomes a cripple after marriage. And a man may obtain a divorce if his wife has no male children, if she has no love for her husband, or if she persists in going to a house where he tells her she must not visit, and so on. Um, the lawgiver seems, in fact, to have laid down that a marriage is a civil contract which either party can dissolve, but unless with good reason the one that wishes to separate must suffer in property more or less severely according as the plea is good or bad. Property for the purpose is said to be of three kinds: pa yin property acquired by or possession of persons before marriage; let hetet poi, or property acquired by husband or wife after marriage; and tin thi, or property inherited or obtained by gift. Pa yin after marriage becomes hnit pa sun, that is, the joint property of husband and wife, but only when it is agreed between them either before or after the marriage that the property shall be put together for the mutual benefit. In the event of a divorce, both parties take away whatever pa yin they may have had on marriage, and the let hitet poi is divided either by mutual agreement or by the decision of the village elders who sanction the separation. But divorces are far from being so common as most writers would have us believe. The warmth of family affection is one of the strongest traits of the race, and the Burman is always very kind to his wife, while every girl is taught from her early years to look with the highest respect upon and man, and to defer in all things to his judgment. Though she is far more free than the Indian wife, the Burman consults with his partner in all his affairs, public and private, and often is entirely guided by her. She keeps the shop that is to be found in almost every house in the country towns, and usually makes far more money than the good man himself. It is a simple matter to blame the Burmese for easy marriage customs, but the system speedily puts an end to unhappy and ill-assorted unions, and illegitimate children are exceedingly rare. Finally, unless is a good known cause for separation, the divorced parties are not by any means looked upon with a favorable eye. The man who enters a monastery to get rid of a wife goes by the contemptuous name of Ta Tuet, jungle runaway, for the rest of his life, while the Ta Kut Lat, the divorcee, is a perennial subject of a joke to the jester in the play, as follows: She that's neither maid, married, nor widow, fits all men as a pot does its lid. That is to say, a divorced woman needs small wooing. Such a woman will not hesitate to cut off the bia bazan, the lappets of hair that fall down over the ears, the last resource of the despairing and unwilling celibate. The literature of marriage is not inconsiderable. The tattooing ceremonies, à nous love philtres, charms, and what not are referred to elsewhere. There remain a number of singular matters to be taken note of by those who would be happy in married life. Thus the girls are told how they may ascertain a man's character by the color of his heart's blood, though how they are to ascertain this color without injury to the subject of inquiry is not mentioned. A lustful man's blood is dark red, a cross quarrelsome man is so dark as almost to be black, a lazy man is like elephant's water, a rough speaking man's like boiled peas, a charitable man's like the flower of the mahalega, a species of bahuina Quinia, and while a learned man's heart blood is beautiful as the ruby. Similarly, useless knowledge is the statement that an ignorant man's heart is all in one mass, while that of the well instructed divides itself into three small parts. Whatever that means. As models of married women are held up the Talewa, the most faithful and beautiful of wives, the consorts of four of the chief princes in the 10 great Jatakas, treating of the great last births of the Lord Buddha, to say that a girl is Talewa Win Lok, calculated to become like one of these four great queens, Amaya, the wife of Mahwathara, the Solomon of Buddhist kings, Madi, the wife of Wethandaya, world famous for his charity, Kenai, or Thanbula, the partners of Princess, hardly less celebrated, is to pay the highest possible compliment to any woman. But these are somewhat vague and intangible matters. There are other recommendations which appeal much more directly to those intending to get married. So the man that seeks a wife, san shui, pure as test gold, or the girl who would avoid a linque or a cure of a husband. Huh? Whatever. Prominent among these is the rhyme of quote unquote the hostile pairs. If they marry, they will certainly have a short life. Okay. Some violence is done to the niceties of language in the linga, so that I may be allowed the same translation of a portion of it, as follows. Friday daughters did an otter marry with a Monday's son. Should she do it, both will rue it. Life's last lap will soon be run. The same lamentable results would follow if the man were born on a Friday and the woman on Monday. Again, as follows. Saturdays and Thursdays, the serpent and the rat, you cannot find out worse days. Life short enough at that. The serpent and the rat preside over Saturday and Thursday, respectively. Similarly, curtailment of life would follow if the union was but was between Sunday and Wednesday, or between Tuesday and the eighth day. Yahoo! One or both contracting parties would soon die, no children of these hostile days married. On the other hand, there is an elaborate figure showing what union according to the birthday will be lucky. The number represents the day of the week according to the order. One is Sunday, two is Monday, three is Tuesday, da 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 da, and then there's this whole chart. I'll skip it. All these rhymes are. Oh, there's another one. It says the outer ring, the maidens, the inner ring, the man's, and ye who would live easeful on the scheme form your plans. Oh, that's a cute little rhyme. All these rhymes are learned by the little boys at school, sometimes formally taught them preceptor by the preceptor as as an excerpt from the Bedin. Sometimes, when the Yahan refuses to recognize the validity of these books, studied surreptitiously along with the secular plays and song books. Whatever else a girl may know, you may be sure she can give you the marriage rhymes. After the marriage has been settled upon, lucky combination of birthdays, parents, consent, settlement of dower, and so on. All satisfactory. Where were we? Okay, it says all satisfactory arranged. The formalities are not yet over. A lucky day has to be sought from the horoscope of the two chief parties, but beyond this, there are a number of obstacles which uh, must on no account be overlooked. In the first place, with the pious, the same rule prevails as in England that no marriage should take place in Lent. This cuts upward of 3 months out of the year. Immediately, unfortunately, a number of persons are so completely in the world of Kama, the seat of the passion, that they care very little whether it is the season of the Wa or not, but almost every other, whether pious or not, considers well the character of the months, as given the marriage linga. The year begins with Tagu, commencing about the middle of April. In this month, the Kasan, the next couples marrying will be very rich. In Nayan, they will love one another. Those marrying in Waso and Wagwang, when Lent begins, will die or be grievously sick. The young pair are so mad to brave the danger, their parents should stop the marriage. In Thalin Nadwa and Piatho, if you marry, you will lose goods and money. In Thadingyut, you will have slaves, children, and money as much as you want. Okay, so it's just a bunch of superstitions. Um, Nevertheless, though, there is all this trouble in getting a wife to your mind, as well as a lucky in time of birth, worldly goods, and seasons of marriage. There are very few Burman not in the sacred order who are not married, but before are 20, and happily married too. As the popular saying puts it, fish to the water, man to the Eve's daughter. Whatever that means. Okay, this was a tough read, especially because most of what I read was not even collected by my microphone. And the next chapter is 10 pages, so I'm not going to read it. My throat's hurting, and yeah. Well, thank you for watching. I'm sorry that most of it didn't get picked up, but maybe you enjoyed watching me mouth words. See you next time.